Welcome to Who Knew. We are fans of the current series of Doctor Who, and here we discuss our likes, dislikes, and insights into the modern regeneration of the show. Subscribe, review, and listen to us on iTunes and Stitcher, or our YouTube channel, youtube.com/WhoKnewPodcast. All our episodes are on whoknewpodcast.com. You can leave comments there, or email us at whoknewpodcast@gmail.com. We also have an Instagram and Twitter account. Tweet at us at whoknewpodcast, and find us on Facebook.
Today's episode is episode 2 of season 6, Day of the Moon. Trying to fight off aliens that are forgotten the instant you look away. I forgot what I was going to say. This episode was written by Stephen Moffat, directed by Toby Haynes. It originally aired on the 30th of April 2011 and was watched by 5.4 million viewers. Hi, this is Eugene. Let's introduce ourselves.
Hi, this is Frank.
Hello, this is Auburn.
Yes, this is Kelsey.
Hi, it's Brian.
Hey guys, it's Heather.
Have you ever had an idea that just sort of came to you out of nowhere? Have you ever entered a room and forgot why you went in there? Driving home, do you not remember how you got there? Some say it might have been driving on autopilot, but maybe, just maybe, you had an encounter with the silence.
3 months after Amy shot the astronaut in the warehouse, Canton is hunting down Amy, Rory, and River, who have been separated and running all over America. The 3 of them have ink marks over their bodies, one for each encounter with an alien. When Canton finds them, he shoots both Amy and Rory, but River jumps off a skyscraper rather than be captured. He brings 2 body bags back to the Doctor, who is shackled inside a solid prison of dwarf star alloy. Canton closes the solid cell wall, shutting them off from the rest of the world. Amy and Rory emerge alive from the body bags as the Doctor easily frees himself. They use the Tardis, which was cloaked in the cell, to transport to New York and catch River as she dives from the skyscraper. From there, they go to Kennedy Space Center just before the launch of Apollo 11.
What an opening!
They topped last episode's opening,
Yes.
I think.
See, I have a more middle approach
too.
to this because I like last one's better. This one I found, wait, why is he hunting them? It was a little more confusing than fun like the last one was.
My thing is, I've watched this episode 20 times. I still don't know what happened in the warehouse. If you're going to have a cliffhanger, finish the cliffhanger.
I kind of liked that. I mean, this one, they did a flashback when Amy is saying, don't you remember what happened in the warehouse? So they show them kind of leaving. So you get enough of it for me.
Not enough for Ender.
So this episode has another confusing opener, but it's for different reasons. This time, you just saw a whole bunch of stuff happen, and you think you know what's going on, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my god, I have no idea what's going on. Why all of a sudden is Canton a bad guy? Why all of a sudden are the U.S. officials shooting Amy and Rory? And why is River leaping off a roof? And I kept trying to remember what happened that made them turn on them, and I couldn't come up with anything. And then it ended up being a huge fake out, and the whole thing was a setup. No one's dead. Everyone's fine. Wow, I just did not remember that happening from the first watch. But I thought it was a really neat way to start the episode.
It's too confusing to me. It's the beginning of Moffat saying, oh, I've written this, I really don't know how to get out of it, so I'll just ignore it and throw in a line or two. And it's just, I mean, I like what happens. I like the chasing them down. I like the marks all over their body. You don't see how they can get out of this, but it's still just kind of like the warehouse. What happened in the warehouse? How did River and Rory get out?
For me, I like that we're thrown into the future, and then I like it better. I think I would have been more disappointed if we just saw them pick right back up and then they just like stand up and they run away.
Well, yeah, I would have hoped he would have written a better resolution.
But if he
than
wasn't
that.
able to, and that the way to get them out of there was just for them to all get up and leave, then I like better that we're thrown into a whole new a whole new problem.
I mean, I would have liked to have seen it, but I don't know, it was different, and it went along with the first episode where the beginning is chaotic. But it was kind of fun not knowing, but knowing that it's coming up quickly. Because it's like, hey, what happened to Canton? Why is he the bad guy? And it's like, okay, we just had the death of the Doctor in the last one. This is a death of Amy. I don't believe this. I don't see that being what's going on. I didn't buy it, so that was kind of the fun part. Going, okay, well, how are they going out of this? What is happening? And it paid off well.
For me, I remember the first time I watched this, enjoying it, and I was looking forward to watching it again because I do remember liking just the excitement of it all. And what was fun watching this episode with my parents was watching their reactions to Rory getting shot, to Amy getting shot. What? No! To River jumping off. They're like, what? What's going? You know, they weren't skeptical at all. They were totally buying into like, this is how this second episode is going to begin. And then when it's all revealed inside the prison or whatever,
which is all
it's
done
exciting.
quickly. It was all done right there in that section. So that was nice that it didn't linger. And thank you for not being 12 hours earlier, 24 hours earlier, 3 days earlier. This is what happened.
3 months
I
ago.
hate that. It's like occasionally, or once in a while, but so many people have done it on so many different shows that it just got so cliche.
Right. We just have something at the very beginning
Just
when
3
they're
months
chasing
later.
Amy
So-
3 months later.
So saying we've missed the last 3 months. So it's like, okay, you can fill that in.
Yeah, and it's fun. Like the doctor has a beard now, and
The longer hair.
it's funny that they're building him yet another prison.
And apparently, humans have ready access and can easily handle dwarf star alloy.
Yeah, that was weird.
In the 60s, right? Like this is
Yeah,
still
69, yeah.
We've heard of dwarf star alloy before in Family of Blood. Do you remember that one with the
Yeah.
Rexo.
No,
The doctor becomes
No,
human and
no.
falls in love.
Oh.
in the World War One.
Yeah.
And then he's sentencing all the family. I think one of them is in a dwarf star. Yeah.
Was it a black hole?
Something like that.
Yeah, the same thing. This is one of those very big moments where it's like, enjoy the roller coaster, don't think about it too much. Because, when you watch it, it's great. But then it's like, how long are they in the body bags?
Yeah.
With no
And
air holes.
With nothing. You'd be able to breathe through the zipper, I guess. But how long are you in these body bags? And no one runs into the Tardis behind his chair? I don't know. It's just weird.
Right, and how do they coordinate the shooting?
Yeah, how'd they plan this all out?
And did he shoot them with a tranquilizer? What did he shoot them with?
Right,
Right.
And the shooting was definitely American. We were done. Shots
the
were
filming.
American. The filming of it.
Oh, okay. The style.
Which was great for Amy and Rory, but is a set for River.
Yes.
So I felt, she could have been somewhere. It's like, let's get the best usage while we're here to show some of these great scenes.
Oh,
It's like
yeah,
they rebuilt
so-
Torchwood and the Daleks of Manhattan set and put them together.
Yeah, so for Rory and Amy, they're on location in America.
That's what I
With big
said.
sweeping,
Where-
with
my
big
brain.
sweeping helicopter shots.
I
and-
do remember my parents being like, "Oh wow, they really shot at the Hoover Dam. That's
Right.
cool." And did they actually shoot at the Hoover Dam, or is that like some kind of?
Other dam.
Amy's was filmed in Utah. That's the Valley of the Gods. And then Rory gets shot at Glen Canyon Dam in Arizona.
I also just like the visuals of the markings all over the face and the arms.
And you don't know what
And we
they
don't know
mean.
what that is yet, right?
Yeah.
But
It's
we
not-
did say it
River
in
does it.
this. We
River
said it
does
in
it.
this little podcast because hopefully everybody's watched it.
Yeah.
But not knowing it when you first watch.
Yeah,
going,
we
"What
don't
is
know what's
happening?"
on Amy. We don't know why they're on Amy. River
Explains it.
explains it, and then you see Rory is just covered.
His face, neck,
Yeah.
arms. It's like, oh no. I did like that it was Area 51 is where they're keeping the doctor and building the cell around him.
Yeah.
Which is another tie into Dreamland, where the Doctor was at Area 51, the animated Dreamland.
And when did that episode take place? 69? No.
50s.
50s.
When River jumps off of the skyscraper, I took that as a reference to the Time of Angels when she does the same thing, but in space, and then the Doctor catches her through like the air being sucked out.
She's also dead.
What?
She's dead. She's falling from a 50-story building. She picks up all that speed. She falls into the TARDIS. I get it. She misses the console. She goes to the pool. She lands in the pool and is immediately crushed because it's like hitting concrete if you're going that fast.
Well, he didn't have to pick her up at the bottom. He could have materialized earlier in her fall.
She only fell 2 stories. Or being in the TARDIS, you can slow down the momentum of the incoming object.
In what space,
The
sir? In what
TARDIS pool
space?
is very, 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 very.
Might not even
very
be water.
But that's the thing. The water being deep, the TARDIS being deep. I'm not complaining. I'm just.
It was
I didn't
a-
know.
yeah.
I didn't know we would move into a discust about
It was
this.
a funny thing to see the water
was
splash
hys-
out of
yes,
the TARDIS.
hysterical.
Yeah.
I love it. Don't change a thing. She dead. just like Lois is dead when Superman cuts her into 3 equal halves when he catches her when she's falling off the Daily Planet. My Sheldon moment is now over.
I'm looking away from you and forgetting everything we just talked about.
Was this the first snap to open the TARDIS door?
No.
Or we've already seen those?
Force of the Dead.
Okay.
With River.
With River.
River's the one who tells him, I've seen you open it with the snap of
okay.
your fingers.
The Doctor also snaps his fingers to open the TARDIS in the 11th hour.
Oh, okay.
So that's one thing I do like is that when the Doctor just leans and then stops, and the TARDIS is right there. I love that.
A little glimmer on the TARDIS as well.
Yeah, it's a good special effect.
I also think they had a better title for this episode than Day of the Moon because, like, we're here to see, or the Apollo 11 rocket's important, and he's like, no, Neil Armstrong's foot. It's like, I want that to be the title. I want that to be a band name, a Coachella. I just think that is just the greatest thing.
I did not understand it at the time. I don't know why I didn't pick up on it quicker.
Oh, really?
What? And then, oh, yeah, of course.
It also says from the beginning of this episode, the Doctor already has that plan. He knows exactly what he's doing that whole time.
To orchestrate like the prison and the escape and the deaths, like he had to figure it out in between the two episodes somewhere.
See, I kind of want to see that.
Yeah.
I just want to see his process, and there's going to be something coming up soon that I want to see how he came up with that as well.
Amy privately tells the Doctor that she was wrong and is not pregnant. They all realize that the aliens have been on Earth for a long time and are all over the planet. They have the ability to edit themselves from your memory the moment you look away. The Doctor injects each of them with a palm recorder that will audio record any encounter with the alien. It will also blink when the recording has been made. Canton turns to the Doctor and straightens his bow tie. His hand is blinking, so he plays the message. It's Canton saying an alien is aboard the TARDIS. I know, that was kind of freaky.
Yeah.
The Doctor had projected a hologram of Amy's picture. Whatever is said when looking at the alien is remembered like a hypnotic suggestion. They have been controlling humans for centuries.
So this is it. How did the Doctor figure that out? I want to know. How did he figure out that there is some sort of subliminal subconscious message that when you're looking at this creature that you retain even though you don't remember you saw the creature? And then how did he figure out how to get the nano recorder to be the thing for you to remember? Because
they know too much.
And how does the holographic projection of the creature still have the same attributes as a real creature? I want to know all these things.
Well, anything that's reflected also becomes an angel.
See? That's what I don't like, is that it reminds me too much of Time of Angels.
Yeah.
Well, here's the explanation. It's in the script.
That's what I don't like about this episode.
But I like that once you see the alien, you remember your other meetings with them. So at that point, Amy, when they had the hologram, if she found the picture, she would remember going, Doctor, this is the alien. And then she holds up her phone. What were you doing? I don't remember. She looks at the phone. Doctor, this is and she turns it away and she forgets again.
And we would have had an entire season of those episodes.
But I want to see like the Groundhog Day version of that. Like something that's just condensed. That would have helped me with all of this that I'm talking about.
I agree. But it didn't bother me like it does you. But because I could see Amy telling them, because Amy remembered the alien and asked, what are you? Oh, and she's saying it to herself. You forget as soon as you look away. That's really interesting. You can do that. So she knows all that.
And see, we mentioned what you guys are talking about in the last episode, that if you see the thing, the creature, you're going to yell and you're going to call out for somebody. I wish that they had shown that in this cold open so that we could be like, okay, now I'm on board with what you're doing.
Right.
Because I am clued in to the bigger mystery.
Yeah.
But I liked it because I thought the Doctor doing the exposition of telling you this is what we've learned. This is a synopsis of the last 3 months. I thought that was enough.
I would
like to have seen it.
I wish he'd gone further and then if they weren't going to show us how they got to that point, then the Doctor should have been, these last 3 months were hell. I figured it out. Just give me something that says he figured it out finally.
And it took trial and error, and that's why he has a beard.
But the beard seems like he has been in prison for those 3 months.
And see, so that's what makes me question, how did he figure it out if he was in prison the whole time?
He's smart. He had the time.
There's just too many questions that I need answered for me.
And to me, it was enough.
Well, I'm kind of with Eugene, but...
And also, it seemed like Rory, Amy, River, and the Doctor had been on the run from Canton for maybe a month and a half or to 2 months, and really the Doctor's only been captured for like a month.
See, that's the other part of my, like, the more we peel this onion, the more questions I have, as opposed to tears. Because why is it so important now that Canton make everybody think that he's hunting them down? Why is that important?
Because it keeps the silence off of him.
Tell us that. Like,
Yeah.
tell us that. I want to know, why did the doctor say that, Canton, you should be hunting, this is the plan, you hunt everybody down so that we don't have the information leaked to the people we don't want it leaked to, and then this is how you get dwarf star alloy. You know, I need all of this.
Right.
In order to, kind of buy into what they're doing.
Yeah, definitely the structure of the cold open 3 months later, and then going to the orphanage, but then flashing back to get more information. Like, that's all kind of to obfuscate that there's a lot
think
of
so.
missing pieces.
And I understand that it works on the first viewing, but when you watch it multiple times, that's where I'm coming from now,
Yeah.
because
more questions.
I've seen this episode quite a bit, and I'm still not sure how all the pieces fit.
Yeah, right, better.
And then they
we're
had the
also,
whole-
the other thing, too, is we're coming from hindsight where he will now do this over and over and over again
Yes.
in his future episodes.
And they had the whole little, not really technobabble, but it was a lot of information in one line about what he's injecting them. It bonds to the cartilage in your hand, and not only we record exteriorly, it's a telepathic recorder as well for your thoughts. It's like, what? Yeah, let's just cover it all. But not visual.
Right.
Yeah.
Because if you see the alien, then you'd forget it, even if you recorded it.
It's funny because I want in this area more exposition, but they say in like script writing classes, show, don't tell. In this case, I want more telling.
Right. Yeah.
The group separates, and Amy and Canton search orphanages for the little girl. They find a rundown one that was closed 2 years earlier, but the sole remaining person, Dr. Renfrew, still thinks it's open. Written all over the walls are "Get out" and "Leave now." Amy enters a bedroom, and the door closes behind her. She notices the light in her hand blinking and listens to a message telling her to get out now. She now has markings all over her face and hands. Above her, she sees a colony of sleeping aliens hanging like bats. When the door suddenly opens, she looks at it and calmly leaves the room to continue her search for the little girl.
Freaky scene. This was a great, scary scene.
Yeah.
I agree with you here. Yes.
Yeah, back when we were doing our episode for like what to watch at Halloween, just this scene, just watch this scene. Like, I so badly wanted to recommend this episode, but like couldn't recommend the episode because
you forgot?
Yep.
But the whole room was really, that whole scary horror film. Something's going to happen. The door slams. She tries to open it, and that's when she realizes on her blank hands, it's just the light for herself to get out. And then she's trying to find her way out, and she goes to the window, and she can see her hands, and her face is fine. But then she looks into the window again, and there are the marks all over her face. So it's like, how many times has she done this? 'Cause that's where you get that feeling is she ever going to get out of this room? What is going on?
Yeah, it's the classic thing of you're in a house, the bad guy is after you, or the monster. Don't go upstairs where there's no exit, but yet it's written "Get out, leave now," and you're still traversing the steps.
No, I'm screaming at Canton and Amy as soon as they're on that stairwell. Why are you continuing to follow this man? Just...
At least it was a dark and stormy night to really help things along. God forbid you'd actually knock on the door during daytime.
I'm just the name of the place. Grace Dark Hall. You just come on.
Yeah, and then Dr. Renfrew. This is my favorite character in this entire episode. I love the performance and how he looks like someone who's been going through some stuff for the past 2 years. Like, he doesn't even remember what year it is.
Yeah,
We don't know if it's only been 2
that's
years. It could be
sad.
3. Because
Yeah.
we're going to close in 67. So it could be 66, 65.
Could have been like 5 years.
Who knows?
5 years this guy has been writing stuff on the wall and then washing it away and writing it at the children.
And he had it on his arm.
Yes.
Yeah.
He had to get out of his arm going, it's not the kids. And it's
Right,
like, we're
that's
our
how
kids.
it's revealed to us. He's like, oh, it must have been the children. And then he goes and we see it on his arm. And that's when I'm like, come on, Canton and Amy. You know
Yeah.
what this is.
Because that's another thing I'd be like, that's my handwriting on the wall. There's so many questions that I have in this episode. And it's just sad that he still thinks children are there and they haven't been there for how many years? Ugh.
Well, he had been taking care of the one.
The one, but I'm just saying.
Yes.
Whenever they were, they put the little recording devices in their hand and they kept talking about, the doctor told them to describe what they see, which they never really did, by the way. But I would have said they look kind of like the Scream mask and an ood and like, I don't know, a light bulb or I don't know. No one actually ever described them. Amy did take a picture of it on her camera phone, which, wow, I can't believe how far we've come. The show does not seem that old to me, but her phone was from like the 40s. Not really, obviously, but that was hysterical. That little phone and that horrible video quality.
The big question I had at this was, why did they let her out of the room? Why not just electrocute her or anything?
Yeah.
Yeah, all the silence that we
Yeah.
turn out, we know who they are now.
That's what I thought.
Why did they let her out of the room? They locked her in at the first part when they closed the door.
But they're the ones that let her out.
Yeah, it made no sense to me for the longest time until later on in this arc. Then you find out. But that was, to me, it made no sense. Why lock her in? Which is such a good, scary part, and keep her in there, which only happened quickly because we go back to Canton and not much time has passed. It is 5-10 minutes at the most. You know, just wondering how many times has she seen this and how many times she's tried to get out.
It's like a time warp. She's caught in a time
Yeah,
warp.
time loop.
Time loop, yeah.
There's just more questions I have in this scene because she's been going through this more than 5 times because she's got multiple 5 marks on her person. And like Frank said, it's been 5 minutes with Canton. I wish they would have said something here that this room exists in a different time or just something.
Yeah.
When you look back at River, she's making one mark for the first silence she sees, and then she makes another one, and she's saying, "I see you, I see you." So she's counting them, not just seeing time of meeting.
So that was my other thing that I was gonna.
Oh, sorry, didn't mean
it's
to
okay.
cut you
It's
off
okay.
on that. I was trying to answer, but
Because I'm like, but then is it a counting of the number of silence she's seen? It's not clear until we get to River. So I wish that they would have done something that just overall says count how many you're seeing so we know the magnitude of what we're dealing with.
Oh yeah, they were trying to figure out how many were
In the world.
in the world.
Because how I initially viewed this is that they're marking how many times they've seen them. But then the nano recorder takes place of that. But then they don't address the fact that we're trying to take more or less a census of how many there are, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think this is the first start of what I like to call style over substance.
Yeah.
And I'll keep bringing up more because my initial reaction of viewing this episode was like, I can't wait till the end because I want to have all these things answered, but we're not going to do that.
right.
And so that's where my criticism is coming from. And I'm only coming at this from watching it multiple times. So
And you have said in the past, style over substance, and sometimes the style is fine for you.
yeah,
So
this one it needed a little more substance.
Amy continues down the hall and sees the face of a woman with an eye patch looking at her through a panel in a door. The woman says to someone else in the room that she thinks Amy is dreaming. Amy opens the door but finds no one inside. It's a little girl's room, and on the dresser are pictures, with one of Amy holding a baby. The astronaut walks into the room. Inside the spacesuit is the girl who is begging Amy for help. Amy apologizes for shooting her. Then a group of aliens arrive, and Amy screams. Canton is with Dr. Renfrew when another alien arrives. He presses his palm to start the recording and asks, "What are they, and are they armed?" The alien replies that they own this world, and they don't need weapons. Canton hears Amy scream, shoots the alien, and then goes to find her.
Finally, someone screams in the presence of the aliens.
Yes,
which
there
is
we go.
Something
Happy
we
now.
mentioned that no one did earlier.
Did you notice the little girl's room door is a big metal locked door, like a safe vault?
Yep.
It's like, okay, they really want to keep something out or something in.
And the effect of the hatch in the door
Well done.
was pretty well done. I mean, it looked like a little bit odd, but I don't think the hatch was they didn't have a hatch at all. I know the woman opened it and closed it, but all of that with the hatch, even when it was closed, was either superimposed or digital. It seemed more superimposed, but I'm not in that area to know exactly that. But as the door's opening, part of it disappears. Part of it stays because of the angle. So that was nice, and then it's totally gone. But who is she?
She has an eye patch, so she must not be good.
This is the first time we see her.
And that was just creepy.
Yeah.
I mean, really. That on a creepy episode, they just added the creep fest. That was just.
When there's no time to even think about the woman behind the hatch because all of a sudden you're looking at photos and you see Amy, you're like, whoa, here's back to this mystery.
Or for me, it's all one mystery, and this is Doctor Who. So I'm okay with it being. I mean, for all I know, this orphanage is a spaceship. Like, it's so wide open with the explanation.
On this one, I disagree from my point of view. Like, glad you liked it. To me, this was that one too many things in a weird episode, adding on something totally different weird. And yes, I know it's a seed, a beginning of something for us story arc. But to me, it was, okay, you're adding way too much into this. You're doing too much with this one episode and not answering it. So that's the part that's like, if you're going to do it in one episode, answer it in one or a two-parter. But if it's a story arc, you need to get a little bit more descriptive or tell me when you're going to answer it or what it's pertaining to. And this just out of the blue, I didn't know what was going on. And it irked me because it's like, I'm not going to know this until what? Next season? The season after?
Right. See, and I agree with you, and I think Eugene will agree with me. I agree with you on repeated viewings.
I still wish they would have, like Eugene at the beginning, done more to explain some of it rather than just throwing it in there in the middle of all of this that's going on.
And I think, that was what they were going for, and in a way
Definitely.
that's very good, but maybe it should have come out of left field in a different place. Maybe when they're in such a creepy area, they had been in a, they're having a discussion in the Tardis. Boom, you see the thing, it was like, what is that? You're not gonna, you're gonna go, wow, that came out of left field. But when it's happening inside the creepy hallway, you're trying to tie it into what's going on in the creepy hallway. And then you realize it's out of left field.
That's a good point, because you just came out of the silence room and you're going into an important room to find more information. That's a good point.
Yeah, any of the
seed stuff?
Yeah, like if it was any place where you aren't already in a heightened emotional state, I think it would have worked, because you would have been like, what is going on? When you're in a creepy thing, you're already kind of predisposed to creepy things going on.
And it's not subtle like the way like the Bad Wolf or the Crack was really subtle.
Right.
Or Saxon.
Well, the Crack wasn't subtle, but
Right, the Crack
yeah.
was always there, and it didn't call attention to itself the way that a piece of dialogue does. Even when it was on the Spaceship UK, you could almost miss it if you weren't paying attention.
But no, that's a good point.
Yeah.
With even the Crack, it was like, okay, we know this is going to be a story arc, and this is just a visual little something weird. This is it. The dialogue, I think, is what did it.
Yeah, pushed it over.
Because now it's part of the story, so you're trying to
Right.
fit it.
And it
into
doesn't
the
fit
whole
into the story
yeah.
yet.
I mean, imagine.
Oh my gosh, it's timey-wimey. It's the whole, okay, well, when were you? The whole river and doctor. That kind of, okay, I like it better now. It would kind of put it like that, in that once you watch the episodes and this whole season, you know what's going on. So you see it from a different point of view, rather than seeing it the first time the other direction.
See, I'm just thinking, I'm going back to the placement of the panel. Like, what if it was when Amy was just hanging out in the Oval Office and they were discussing and, doing exposition in the Oval Office, and she just looks over and boom. Mm-hmm. What was that,
Or going to the restroom.
Someplace where it's like not a heightened, dark and stormy night. Whoa. But I do remember just being like, did we just see that? I think we even rewound going, what?
Yeah.
So I have actually two things I like in this scene. When Amy picks up the photo of herself, you hear Amy's theme, and I like that. And it's a music box version of it. I really enjoy that. It fits with the decor of the little girl's room. And then Dr. Renfrew, his teeth look like they fit him. They look as if he hasn't been taking care of himself, so you can just feel that he's been there forever.
Yeah. No, I think they did a great job I think they actually did a great job with that character. Who is he played by, Eugene?
Dr. Renfrew is played by Kerry Shale. He has done a lot of voiceover work for kids programming. The one that I think most people would, recognize him from, he does the voice of Gordon on Thomas the Tank Engine, the current versions. And then he was the NBC newscaster in Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. And then he was in Little Shop of Horrors and Labyrinth.
I can't remember. Do they kill Dr. Renfrew?
He wasn't watching TV, so he didn't get the
Oh,
other
no.
message.
But they never say what happened to him. But hopefully they'll find a good place to put him to try and help him.
Yeah, he's really screwed up.
Yeah, he's screwed.
And they bring him to a farm upstate.
Yes.
And he's living happily right now.
Did we read this already?
Yes,
Okay.
I did.
I forgot what I was going to say. When Canton shoots the alien, that's when Renfrew, I don't know, somehow gets the memory of somebody shot and can still retain the urgency and get people to come by, and then he's like, oh, I forgot who got shot.
It could be that he heard the gunshot, not looking at the alien.
Yeah.
So that's a part of his memory. There is a gunshot, and then you can't remember who got hit.
But I think that's the last time we see him. We don't know after that what happens to him.
Right.
The alien might even have told him to get help.
Yeah.
like because it's sitting there bleeding.
Wounded, yeah.
Yeah, wounded.
Go tell them someone might have been shot.
Right, and even I just took it as like since he's been under their influence for so long, he's even he even tells them, "Oh, they told me to watch over the girl. She's special." He knows that there's someone else in the orphanage with him, or someone who's like not controlling him, but you know.
Oh, that makes it more creepy that all these kids playing these tricks are like young little silents hanging from the roof. Canton has a great line here after he shoots the silence. "Welcome to America."
Sometime before this is where we get the line where I think they're saying it to Canton. When you see them and forget, sometimes you get sick, sometimes you don't. So I think it was like, by the time they got to the second episode, it's like, well, we can't have everybody getting sick every time this happens. So they just wrote that line and then nobody gets sick from that moment on.
Again, need a little bit more.
So Amy tells the doctor that she is actually not pregnant. This is 3 months later, and she has not gotten any bigger. That's suspicious. She thought she was pregnant. She's not pregnant. Something's definitely going on there. I do think that whole kind of storyline is a little strange, but obviously I'm not going to talk about it because there's a lot more of it left to come.
The doctor is discovered working inside the Apollo 11 capsule, but Nixon shows up to get him released. They go back to the Oval Office, and the doctor tells Nixon that he needs to record everything that happens in this office. River leans out of the Tardis and tells the doctor that Canton needs them. They transport to the orphanage and meet up with him. In the little girl's room, they find an empty spacesuit and a recording device from Amy's hand. It is alive and broadcasting Amy as she cries from a dark, unknown place. She pleads for the doctor to find her. Renfrew arrives and tells them that he thinks someone has been shot. They go downstairs to the wounded alien, who says that he is part of the silence, and silence will fall. They take the TARDIS back to the prison cell, and Canton and Nixon leave.
Also, I think at the end of the orphanage, the girl is out of the suit, right? Like she's kind of overhearing from a different room.
Which is freaky. Like I said, little girls can be very freaky in all these different shows. Brings me back to Buffy.
When Nixon just shows up after they've arrested the doctor, I'm like, don't you just want to see like that's Nixon? Or people behind him are like more official because he has Amy and Rory and River. And I'm like, they're British. They wouldn't be with the president. It's just there's too many things that I thought of.
My thing is that you catch this guy in one of the most critical, secure places on the planet. So you interrogate him in a classroom.
And I like how the doctor, there's something I do like, is when the doctor is in handcuffs, he tries to chew out of them like, Doctor, you can't chew out of handcuffs.
Well, maybe you can't, but...
Well, he can't, apparently.
Again, I'm just so distracted by just everything about this episode that I'm not bothered that they're in a classroom. I was slightly bothered that, like you said, you catch him in the
capsule.
The capsule. You're not immediately going to go in there and try to figure out what he had done.
You could rationalize that saying, well, the NASA's not going to tell anybody about it because they don't want bad press. And by that time, Nixon's shown up and released the doctor and probably also said, leave the capsule alone, it's fine.
Well, I thought River looked great in that time period dress. Yeah. it was perfect. Whoever did the costuming on this one.
Yeah, and I think Rory and River at that point are supposed to be pretending to be his staff.
Yeah,
they're supposed to be playing American. It's just Rory sucks
opens
at
his
it.
Well, he opens his mouth and he has the accent. So.
And then Rory in a British accent is like, America salutes you.
But then he salutes this way as opposed to this way.
Yeah.
This is American salute. It's the British salute. So it's like if they had not done stuff like that, then I would have bought it. It's still funny, but it stuck out to me for some reason.
Well, were they carrying the wrong guns in the background?
Well, I think Canton's gun in the opening is a little too modern for what he would have been what would have been available in the 60s.
Oh, that's interesting.
I think it's funny that Hale the Chief plays as he walks in.
That's so...
And it's like, is that actually played or is that part of the soundtrack? Like,
it's to make fun of Americans.
Yeah, because it's in no way subtle. It's just blaring the horns over your head. And they do it twice.
Yes, they do.
I do like, going back a little, when Amy was apologizing for shooting the little girl, you can see in the helmet that the faceplate above where the little girl's head was, which is nice, was a hole and it was all broken. I like that a little bit. That's like, oh, pretty good shot. If it was an adult person, you probably would have killed them, but...
Yeah,
like
and
it.
aren't we...
I forgot.
We're left to believe on the previous episode's cliffhanger that Amy did shoot the spaceman. Yeah, I like how when the doctor and River and Rory run to the room where Amy just was and screams, I always first think that she's inside the spacesuit.
Yes.
Yeah, and then they open it and it's empty.
Yeah,
And
I
then
thought
you're like, well, then where is Amy? Like, if she's not in there, where is she?
I thought they somehow switched places because the last thing we hear is "help me" from the spacesuit. Oh, so that's another thing I have a problem with, is that now you see it's clearly a little girl asking for help. Now you want to try to communicate with it, but the dialogue that is exchanged between the both of them is not helpful. There's no communication. It's as if the girl is a recording. So that kind of bugs me. I'm like, the girl is in there, she's asking for help, but Amy's asking questions to try to help her. There's no response. Again, just a recording of "help me." Okay, how can I help you? Help me. There's nothing there for me.
But that's explained in the next scene.
I know, but I'm just saying, in this moment, that's what I felt.
But also, and then the aliens do come in fairly quickly during the conversation.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I agree. It did feel like a recording.
Yeah.
And by the way, in this script, it's like, oh gee, when does the impossible astronaut show up? Whenever the plot requires the impossible astronaut to show up. It's like, hi, I'm in the little girl's room, and it walks in.
I'm at the end of the episode from last episode to be the cliffhanger.
Yeah, I just walk in.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, how'd you get there? How long have you been walking around in the suit? Just, I don't know, just script. Again, don't think about it too much.
And then when Amy's nano recorder is left on the floor, it reminds me of Silence of the Library. And then it's like, are we ghosting? What's going on here? And then the recording goes a little further than ghosting, and it has Amy calling for the doctor to help, and then after that, telling Rory not to give up. It's like, it's not a double entendre, but
Right.
it's meant to be both to the doctor and Rory at the same time.
Yeah, we
Well,
don't really know what who she's talking to.
Right.
and the doctor's saying it's only one way, and she can't hear him.
Yeah.
And that's when Rory goes, no, she can always hear me. That's it. Get that. Know that. No
Yeah.
matter where we are, she will hear me.
And I
So-
get that it's giving Rory something to do, but at the same time, like, logically and technologically, you shouldn't be saying that because the doctor's smarter than you.
Yeah.
I really like when Amy's been missing and they find the little device that's been recording in her hand. And Rory says, you know, I can always hear her. I will always save her, no matter what. And it's just a really nice, strong moment for him. And then Amy kind of ruins it by saying into the recorder, like, doctor, come save me. But then Rory unruins it because he says, even though Amy can't hear him, he says, I'll bring the doctor. I swear it. So he has every opportunity to get all upset at Amy for asking for the doctor's help instead of his. But instead, he says, you know, basically what he's saying is, whatever you ask for, whatever you need, I'm going to get it for you. And it just shows that Rory is just beyond. As much as Amy has grown on me over, you know, the last season and a half, she's just not half the person that Rory is. Rory believes that she might be talking about the doctor in the recordings, about how her life was so boring until he dropped out of the sky, and she's gonna tell him as soon as she sees him again how much she cares about him, and she could very well be talking about the doctor, and Rory is only concerned about her safety. He's not mad at her, he's not upset, he only thinks about saving her, getting her out of the bad situation. And you could argue that makes him a little weak because, you know, he just lets Amy walk all over him. But at the end of the day, Rory knows what's really important. And Rory knows that if you love someone, the best thing you could do for them is make sure that they're happy and healthy. And that's his number one priority all the time with Amy. So it was a really great hero moment for him that she almost ruined, and then he swooped in and saved. Because Rory is amazing, and I miss him.
The doctor and River find multiple alien tech embedded in the spacesuit. River says the silence was keeping the girl safe. Trying to figure out the motive of the silence, the doctor wonders why humans decided to go to the moon so quickly. Because the silence needed a spacesuit. On the television, they watch the launch of Apollo 11. Rory is away from the others, listening to Amy's pleas for the doctor's help. She says, I love you, and that she can't wait to see the expression on his stupid face. The doctor overhears this and goes to Rory. He reminds him about being a centurion and waiting 2,000 years for Amy.
Okay, so that I do like. Because Rory's sulking in this moment, and then the doctor is the one to come over and comfort him. I like that. And then they do address the fact about the centurion, because the doctor calls, I think, Rory the Roman in The Impossible Astronaut, the previous episode to this, reminding us that he was the lone centurion. And then here, it's explained that he can remember those times. So I like that he goes, just not all times. So it's problematic, but they addressed it, so I'm okay with it in this case.
So is Rory human or is he plastic?
Human.
He's human now.
But he has the memories of the time when he was plastic.
Yes.
After the Big Bang, when Amy brought everyone back, and then she brought back the doctor, she brought back the memories of the doctor. So then, Rory remembered at their wedding that he used to be plastic, that alternate
Version,
timeline
yeah.
is real and happened.
So
That's how come sometimes
yeah.
he can block it off and go, no, that didn't. We still just grew up the same way. We got married. But then he does remember it when craziness happens.
So that's why I like that, because it gives us both. Like, it gives us our cake and eat it, we can eat it too.
It is all really convoluted because I did forget, especially this season, they're adding so much more later on that you just, what time frame, what reality, what's going on? I keep forgetting that Big Bang reset everything. And so that, no, he is human and all that is just a memory. Because I kept forgetting throughout this whole season. That's why I don't think I liked it the first time watching it. And why I think it's better when you go back and watch it again.
I think it's also, why did the Silence do all this? Why did the Silence do all this? They needed a spacesuit. Really? And next it's going to be like, well, the American industry developed textiles really quickly because the Silence needed suits. That's not a motivation.
It adds more questions, same as like the angels of, well, are they from Earth? Is that why they've been here for so long? Or did they come here? How did they come here if they did? They don't make anything, so that was another alien race that they were on that ship when it crashed, and so that's why it just brings up a whole nother history of who these people are, and which would be really interesting to find out. I like that, but it also gives you just too many questions, and that why
agree.
don't they create anything? Why do they only parasites
I
who
agree.
make you to go through things?
But back to Rory, he mentions that he was there when Rome fell, and the doctor says, I was there too. So I like that.
Yeah.
It's the other way around.
Oh, the other way around, yeah. And I do
Yeah.
enjoy that.
Yeah. You tell the doctor. You tell him.
And I got the Pandorica out of there with none of your help.
Yeah.
Because I don't know
Yep.
where you were when it was burning if you were there.
I dragged that thing through the Blitz. Do you know what the Black Death was like? Inside the prison cell, Canton records the wounded alien on a cell phone, mobile, as he asks the question, what does the Silence think humans should do about them? It replies that they should kill them all on sight, but humans won't even remember that they exist. Amy wakes up and finds herself a prisoner in the alien hub. The Tardis arrives and the doctor exits with a television, and River exits with a gun. Rory goes to free Amy. The doctor turns on the television and signals Canton to add the video of the wounded Silence saying that they should kill them all on sight, right as Neil Armstrong steps foot on the moon. Everyone who is watching or will ever watch this moment will see the subliminal message and kill any Silence they see. Rory can't free Amy, and she says to leave her and get his stupid face out of here. The doctor helps free Amy, and they enter the TARDIS as River cleans up the remaining Silence.
So this subliminal video televised event reminded me of John Carpenter's They Live.
Oh, yeah.
It's the one with the, when you put on the sunglasses, you can see the advertising. It says, buy, consume, procreate, obey. That's where that street art comes from.
Shepherd fairies. I don't know if it happened here earlier, but the doctor did try to talk the Silence into leaving, didn't he? Didn't he give them a choice to...
He doesn't.
Oh, he doesn't?
He talks about doing it, and he says, but you know what? Not for you.
Okay.
He's not justified in turning the entire human race for all of existence into homicidal murderers, but what do you do?
It's more classic Doctor.
It
than
is
modern.
much more classic Doctor.
He turned us all into killers and we don't know it.
Yeah.
And we've killed.
And it will be millions of years from now, too.
It's like,
Yeah.
that's not good.
You know, the people on the Satellite 5, if they see a Silence, will kill the Silence.
On site.
And on top of it, when this is all going on and they're watching it in the hub, how come Rory doesn't try to start killing the Silence?
Yeah, because
Rory or Amy.
Because to her, she'd already seen the moon landing.
she would have, yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's true.
So they have the spacesuit and they're dissecting it, and they're talking about how whoever was trapped in the spacesuit must have been incredibly strong because they ripped out of it. And then the doctor says, incredibly strong and running. I like her. Again, this is one of those moments where it's a throwaway line that you probably wouldn't even think about on first viewing. But on subsequent viewings, you're like, oh man, there it is. He basically just told us who's in that spacesuit. Again, I'm not going to spoil it.
Yeah.
But that's something I didn't hear the first time that I heard this time, for sure.
And one thing, again, with the editing, it was to try and emphasize it. But from the way I was trying to see it, it only is shown once. Because everybody's reaction is, okay, we saw it and we're seeing the rest of it, one small step for mankind. But the way that they show it is they show it like it happens 3 or 4 times that they're seeing it. But that's only because they're going to 3 to 4 different locations seeing it. And that I didn't like.
Yeah, sometimes I still think it's on a loop.
Yeah, and I don't like that, and so I don't think it is. I think it is just a
really
once.
making sure it sets in. Did you also know that around about 2 or 3 years before this episode aired, they found a glitch in the recording in real life?
Yeah.
Because Armstrong, he didn't talk about it much, but whenever he was asked, he would say, I said one small step for a man. One giant leap for mankind. He said that because, one small step for man technically doesn't really make sense. He's saying one small step for mankind, one giant leap for mankind. You need the but he said for years, I said it. I know I said it. And then it was in 2006, computer programmer downloaded the audio recording of the moon of his words from a NASA website and analyzed the statement with software that allowed disabled people to communicate via computers using their nerve impulses. In a graphic representation of sound waves of the famous sentence, Ford said he found evidence that the missing had been spoken after all. It was a 35 millisecond long bump in the sound between for and man that would have been too brief for human ears to hear. In his conclusions, I also find his conclusions persuasive. Persuasion is the appropriate word.
At this point, we get them coming out of Area 51 because they go in at the beginning of the episode. They're sealed, and then
Yes. And then they come out with the president.
Yeah, it's not clear in the.
He says run. While
Well, that's
they're
earlier
still
on,
in the-
saying that
Yeah.
they take the Tardis back to the prison cell and Canton and Nixon leave.
I think after this they
But
go
then
to
they
the
go back.
office.
It's the one where the president walks out.
That was earlier. That was
Oh.
a while ago.
Well, he does it twice.
Well, the president enters the classroom and then he walks out of the prison, the dwarf star. Is that the second time?
Yeah.
But that happened earlier in the episode, I think.
I'll just bring it up now.
Oh, yeah.
The doctor
It's-
comes in.
Yeah.
Which,
the
I
doctor.
left out of the summary, but I thought we'd talk about it, and then we didn't. We forgot.
That's why I was waiting for the doctor to come, the military doctor.
Yeah, so the military doctor comes in, and his name's Dr. Shepard.
Which is funny.
Is Mark Shepard and
Yeah,
Morgan
Morgan.
Shepard's last name. So that was a fun little.
I thought that was nice. But it's weird to me that the people guarding the prison, they see Canton walk in and it's sealed for what?
Days.
5
Couple
He
days.
just says days.
Let's just say 5 days. And then the prison opens, he walks out with the president. I would imagine the people at Area 51 would be a little bit more, let's just say, skeptical to like chameleon aliens or shape-shifting aliens. How do they know that that is the true president walking
That's funny.
out?
I thought
Because
the
they don't
same
know
thing.
about shape-shifting aliens yet. They just know about time differential in space moving. So
I think all of those people in the room had a level 5 security clearance, and after all this happened, it got bumped to level 6.
bionic reference. Huh?
I'm just saying that Area 51 is supposed to hold all these alien secrets, and I think the people there should know a little bit about it.
Now, I also kind of like when Rory, when they're listening to Amy says at one point, my life was so boring until you dropped from the sky. And now she's like, well, that's just an expression, idiot. But she does say when you dropped out of the sky. And in the previous episode, River said to Rory, imagine if a man dropped out of the sky. And it's like, oh, that's a nice little symmetry. I just like that.
At one point, they answer your question earlier, saying that the spacesuit is a life support system with all that different technology they find and why it's protecting the girl, but it's also using its information to call the president. So she didn't have to use a phone. They got her to call the president because they
From the
wanted
suit?
to start this, because it was all a trap. Because then it's like, why is she so robotic in her answers? It's because that's what they need her to do. The silence have been running all this. And they start picking that out when they're getting for the the suit, why the Silence need a suit. That's why the whole space program.
I didn't get any of that.
I know, it's like, I meant this is a little earlier. The Doctor and River find multiple alien tech embedded in the spacesuit. And with that information, they find out that the suit is a life support system, keeping her alive, and also taking like solar power and everything and turning it in so they can do communication. And when she wants in distress, when the kid's in distress, it'll call the highest authority, which is the president. Because they went...
Yeah, I got all that,
Right.
but I didn't hear where her calling the president was a trap set by the Silence.
So they're making that call for her. Either that or she's really strong and trying to make it herself, but I don't think so. It seems like a whole trap. They keep saying this whole thing is a trap.
Yeah, they did say this is a trap. Well, yeah, what else are you going to do?
But then the girl forces her way out of it, and she's ripping it apart, and the suit is repairing itself.
Yeah, that's the thing I think they needed to play up a little more. That not only is it repairing itself, it can move by itself.
Yeah, when that hand moves, I thought they were going to go into more detail.
Yeah, and they just dropped it. And it's like, that suit can repair itself, get up and walk around.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're meant to feel that when, it's going to eat me, is because this empty suit is about to put her inside the suit.
Yes.
And the little girl's going to go, he's going to eat me. But you're right. How is she on the phone saying that if she's
Unless
not
she's
already in the
inside
suit?
it.
I never thought that.
Style over substance.
Yeah. It's all too convoluted.
And then, knowing from the first episode, well, maybe it's the suit that kills the Doctor and the girl's not in it, because that's why they needed the suit to kill the Doctor. It just seems more on Eugene's point, when you think about it and watch it too many times, trying to figure out all these different things, because it's also not just this episode. You have to watch the whole season and even some season after it, so it's too convoluted. And when you go back, makes it so much more convoluted. It's like Babylon 5 did a good job when they had a story arc for 5 years. It's like they knew where things are going, and when they needed to recast because people are leaving, whatever, they can divert because they knew which way they were going to go.
He called it a trap door. Every character had a trapped door to be let go and replaced.
And there was that scene that you talked about with, I was in Rome when it fell.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I wish they would have had a connection going, because Rory then adds, Rome fell. Yeah, and they're saying the Silence will fall.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the same way as Rome?
That's what I was thinking too.
It's like,
we are the Silence and the Silence will fall.
yeah, in a negative way, but now it seems, but the way they say it seems like Silence will come down on you. We're going to crush you.
But it has a double meaning, maybe.
So I just wish that was brought up during that conversation, because that conversation to me left me
Wanting
something. Because the Doctor comes over to try and console him, but doesn't do that job. Like the ending of last episode, when the Doctor comes into the main console hub, he goes, "Oh, this looks like," it reminds me, Ackman Road.
Which is from the lodger.
So it's like what we thought of. It's like, yes, it is that. So that's nice that he acknowledges it and brings it up. And then that kind of wondering, is this the same ship? Like, did it try and travel? Wondering, is this is the same ship?
It looked the same.
Ship in that, because it crashed in the lodger. So maybe it was trying to escape the planet because of this, trying to go through time and crashed.
Doesn't he also say at the same time, this is looks like somebody's trying to build a primitive TARDIS?
That was in the lodger. I don't think it was brought up in this.
So, if you put it all together,
right,
the Silence are attempting to create time travel and kind of succeed, but everybody died.
Or did they just disappear and no one knows where the crew went?
Oh yeah, they're all standing around waiting for it to be fixed.
Because that adds to the whole lodger creepiness, weirdness of it.
Yeah, it's like, all right, artificial intelligence gets people in here and fix the ship. We can't do it on our own. We need to steal it from everybody.
The ship controls has the same number of fingers as the Silence as well. So that's another thing that's a connective tissue.
The Silent, we do you honor. You will bring the Silence, but your part will be over soon. Amy, well, whatever that means, you've made a big mistake bringing me here, because wait till you see what's coming for you now. So when she's tied up in the faux TARDIS thing, she's talking to them, and that's what they say.
This is a great scene, too, for River and the Doctor. How they get to flirt a little bit at the beginning. Yeah, and they get to flirt a little bit. And then
Amy's response to it, I think I'm a little bit higher up than you're flirting. Come on.
It's a great moment also when he says, yeah, she's the one who carries a gun. Now, really, that should make me very cross, but it's something kind of sexy with her. It's like, okay. But it is just kind of like, oh, yeah, he doesn't mind her really necessarily having a gun.
And then
he's the bad boy at that moment.
And then he's pointing around the screwdriver doing the same thing, and she goes, what are you doing? You're going to build a cabinet?
But he was doing it.
Yeah, she's like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm helping. And she's like, oh, go build a cabinet or something.
Yeah.
and then she gets to shoot. That's what I mean. Like, that's a great moment for River. She gets to shoot up all the aliens. She has this, slow motion or spinning, the cameras around her, the lighting and the glow against her head.
Rory's at the door and she's like, my old fella didn't see that, did he? He gets ever so cross.
Oh, yeah, she did say that.
Because when the
love
doctor and
her.
her are both using the sonic and the gun, it seems like she's trying to just stop them from charging the
Yeah,
electricity.
the doctor
she's not
says-
actually killing them at this point.
Yeah, the doctor says,
And he's
make
just-
sure they don't build up enough electricity to fire.
And that's what he's doing with the sonic.
So they're both doing that until he goes in the TARDIS and then she just wastes.
She cleans up.
Yeah.
Which also River doesn't miss, which is what I said in the last episode when she was shooting at the astronaut going
astronaut.
back into the water.
And then when she walks past Rory, she's, because he says, what kind of doctor are you? Archaeologist. And then love a tomb. As she's walking out of a tomb she just created.
I also like where the doctor is talking to the silence after they do the subliminal message and the thing, and he's like giving them a speech, and he says, you should run. And then he's like, no, I mean us guys, we should run. I thought
That was good.
That was funny. And Amy's still tied up at this point.
But I love Matt Smith, the way he just runs up with the screwdriver, but he just kind of like has that spin on. Doesn't say a word, just smile and runs away. It's just,
Yeah, his comedic timing has gotten better.
he was so good in this episode.
And is this also where we have the digital mouth, the silence at this point, right?
Yes.
Thought that was well done.
Yeah, I like the
That was
digital
really
mouth.
good. Reminded me of a Soul Eater.
Rory realizes that Amy loves his stupid face, not the doctor's. They go back to the Oval Office and tell Nixon that wanting to get married is not a reason to kick Canton out of the FBI. They return River to her prison, where she kisses the doctor and realizes that this was their first kiss. Well, at least for him. He leaves and asks Amy why she didn't tell Rory that she was pregnant. Well, she was worried that traveling with the doctor in the TARDIS might have affected the baby and didn't want to worry Rory until she talked to the doctor. She calls across the room to tell Rory to stop eavesdropping through the link that he has from her hand. The doctor asks if they should go find the girl or have more adventures, because you only live once. Rory and Amy look worried at each other. The doctor checks his monitor, which shows Amy as both pregnant and not pregnant. He looks worried at Amy and Rory. 6 months later, the little girl is dying in the streets of New York. But it's all right. She begins to glow and regenerates.
When the doctor says, should they go find the girl? I'm like, yes, you should.
Yeah.
I know. It's like, what's the
I'm
kind of
like,
question
what
is that?
the heck?
But where do you start?
I don't know. It just seemed like
They had to figure out a way for him to say you only live once. Ooh, everybody remember he died.
But it could have been, I think, written better
Yes.
as a line of, okay, let me put in what coordinates we have and see if the TARDIS will work on this while we go have other adventures, because you only live once.
something like that. I wish they had put in.
Yeah.
Because it just bugs me that you went through these 2 episodes with this mystery, and especially with Starship UK. What was that episode? The Beast Below. He answers the call to adventure because a young girl is crying on Starship UK. So it seems inconsistent that he would go for further adventures as opposed to helping a little girl. So that's what bugs me about that moment.
Especially putting so much, emphasis on it, where, okay, we know where they got the spacesuit from, but now we need to find the little girl. You go through all
Yes.
that and then drop her. It's like,
Yeah.
she was right there. She, you're so close, but then no, we take the alien and do that whole aspect to get rid of the alien. The next step is to find her.
Yes.
I'm rationalizing it as he in that moment is looking at the monitor and there is something severely wrong with Amy. And it's not the doctor, but he's rationalizing that Amy comes first. Badly written.
And it doesn't sit well with me
Yeah.
at all.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
But also, it's not the last time that happens.
Of course.
And it bugs me
Yes.
just as much as it did this
Yep.
time, too.
So that's why I'm pointing out this is when it starts.
Yes. We'll talk about that in about 10 years.
At the very end of the episode, the last thing we see is the little orphan girl, the one who was in the spacesuit. We see her regenerate in an alley. And I guess you didn't have the information then that you would have needed to have to know who that was. But it's so obvious now. So I always think it must be really difficult to write episodes of Doctor Who because essentially you're going all in and out of various timelines and it just seems very confusing and twisted and convoluted. But I suppose if you have all the answers ahead of time, like they do, it wouldn't be so complicated. It only seems complicated when you're watching it in the proper order. Or in the proper story order, I suppose I should say. that definitely probably threw me for a loop the first time I saw it, when the little girl in the spacesuit was suddenly a regenerating orphan in an alley in New York. And even some of the locations they were in this episode, the dam in Arizona, and Amy was in Utah, I think, and River was in New York. And it's just like, what is going on? Why are we all over the map here? It's like they're deliberately trying to confuse the hell out of us, which I'm sure they are. They are working very hard to confuse the audience.
And then he's talking to Nixon, and Nixon, being a politician, is like, well, I just kind of have to know. Am I going to be remembered? And he's like, oh, they will never forget you. And say hi to David Frost.
Right.
That was a fun little line. And also that Canton wants to get married. Canton wants to get married, and Nixon says, black? Well, I may be a little bit more liberal than people think. He is. And he's just kind of like, some things are just a bit too far.
The moon is far enough
The
for
moon
now.
is far enough for right now, yeah.
That reminded me of when Canton said, how long has Scotland Yard had this thing?
Right.
Okay, so we mentioned River Song, played by Alex Kingston. Canton, Delaware, played by Mark Shepard. The Silent is played by Marnix van der Borek. Richard Nixon is played by Stuart Milligan. We mentioned Dr. Renfrew, who's played by Carrie Shale. And then Gardner is played by Glenn Rage, and he was in Saving Private Ryan as Doyle, and he's also done voiceover in Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends. And then Grant is played by Jeff Marsh, and he played the Doctor in Black Mirror, the episode San Junipero, or San Junipero. We mentioned the little girl, played by Sydney Wade. The Sergeant at Area 51 is played by Tommy Campbell. Dr. Shepard is played by Peter Banks, and he is the priest in the Highlander movie. The Eye Patch Lady is played by Frances Barber. She will be in future Doctor episodes, so we will point her out. Right now, she has no name, and she has done a lot of UK TV acting. It's very extensive credits. The tramp at the end of the episode is played by Ricky Fearon, and he was the foreman in the Torchwood episode To the Last Man. That is in Season 2, Episode 3. So, does Day of the Moon live up to the promises set up by the impossible astronaut?
Anyone want to go first?
This one, it's difficult because the second half opens up so many questions that aren't answered by the end of the episode. So for that, I have to say no. It's hard. Like, I feel like I had just as much fun watching the second episode as I did the first parter. So for those reasons, I want to say yes, it did. But then you have all these holes and all these questions that Eugene brought up, and then it's like, well, then no, it doesn't live up. It gets more confusing. It even makes the first parter more confusing. I don't know. I'm just put me down for yes.
That's what I was gonna do.
I'll say no, just to be different. Also because the first part is really, really good, and I know endings are often harder than beginnings. So just because this, I don't think, lived up to the same level as the first episode, because it was so good, I'm going to say no.
I'll take the other side of Kelsey's argument. I'm going to say yes, because I think as a two-part story, it does complete it. It does add to what happened in the first part. It doesn't go like some other ones in a whole different direction, just solving that problem right at the beginning. It's still continuing with these are the aliens that we have a problem with. And yes, there are holes and issues that we all have with this episode, but I still think it does live up to the first one. I think it's solid.
The Silents control the people of Earth using post-hypnotic suggestion. That's pretty intense. Also kind of makes me wonder how they've never encountered the Silents before. And then wasn't Earth also, like, the Martians lived there before humans were ever there? I just feel like there's a lot of alien races that, apparently got to the Earth before we did. And somehow don't know about each other? I don't know. Maybe I'm forgetting something important in Who history. But they certainly are creepy. Do I feel like this is a good follow-up that lives up to the first episode? I'm going to say this episode is a lot less fun than The Impossible Astronaut. The Impossible Astronaut has a lot of buddy moments in which the Doctor and Amy and Rory are all together, and then Canton's in there. Even Nixon ends up being part of the gang a little bit. The second episode is more action, more scariness, less moments where the characters are all together making jokes. And there's a couple good jokey parts and flirty parts in there, but not nearly as many as The Impossible Astronaut. So I want to say that in some ways it lives up to the first episode, in that it keeps you interested, it keeps you the proper amount of confused. However, it's just not as fun as the first one. So I'm gonna say it isn't quite the conclusion I wanted. It also leaves a lot of unanswered questions, which, if you were watching this season organically week to week, would be so frustrating. But I mean, I guess that's the point. But no, I'm gonna say this didn't quite live up to the first episode.
I think this is the first time I've ever done this, but I'm going to say no, it doesn't, because I said the first one was a roller coaster ride that just go along with the ride and have fun with it. This one too continues that roller coaster, but there's so much shoved into this that it feels that I've smacked my head on the guardrail of the roller coaster. And it hurts now. And it's just kind of, I'm not enjoying this as much as I did before. And it is so convoluted. And it doesn't answer enough from the first episode. It just adds more mysteries. It's not a complete, well-formed story in and of itself. So I'm going to say no.
My analogy is that this is like a magic show where you are given questions to things, but then look over here, pay attention over here instead of over here where I'm making the magic work. So again, it is style over substance in the second episode. There's too many things that I think Moffat is drawing from dry wells like Time of Angels and Silence in the Library. I really wish that the Amy witnessing Joy's death in the bathroom paid off with how the doctor was able to figure out how to use nano recorders and just how to get in front of the Silence's gimmick, I guess, if you will. And then throwing in the eye patch lady just really comes out of nowhere, like, here's another shiny thing, pay attention to this. But what I do like about this is that they kind of paint Nixon in a different light, and I don't know how true that is, but I'd like to believe that he's not as bad.
Well, I think in American media, we get caricatures of Nixon, where this is probably a little more, not honest,
but
at
kind
least.
to him.
Yeah, kind. Yeah.
And I did like that, because I think there's enough distance between me and that era that I can be like, okay, let's do a little bit revisionist history on it. The Impossible Astronaut is a stronger episode for a new Who viewer. They can be charmed by the style, where in the second episode, The Day of the Moon, you want more substance because of what the style has brought. You want payoff, you want answers.
I also think the style of the second episode doesn't live up to the style of the first episode.
They're different styles.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I didn't have any quotes from the second episode, like lines that I wanted to bring up. Like the first one was just chocked full of good ones.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go no. This doesn't live up to what The Impossible Astronaut promises. So that wraps up Day of the Moon. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time when the future becomes the present.
You've just listened to an episode of Who Knew? Our wonderful theme music is by Michael Grady.
Find him on Facebook at The Universe Explodes.
All our episodes are engineered by Allburn.
You can find him at albernbinkley.com.
You can also find this show in several places.
Follow us on Twitter at Who Knew Podcast.
Subscribe, review, and listen to us on iTunes and Stitcher.
Or our YouTube channel, youtube.com/whoknewpodcast.
All our episodes are on whoknewpodcast.com.
Visit our Facebook page.
Please leave comments, reviews, and click like to help support Who Knew Podcast.
To listen to our show on your Amazon Echo device, enable the AnyPod podcast skill. Ask AnyPod to play the Who Knew Podcast. This podcast is inspired by Doctor Who,
the longest-running sci-fi show in history.
And especially the revival, spearheaded by Russell T. Davis.
Thanks to Russell,
Sydney Newman,
Verity Lambert, Ron Grainer,
Delia Derbyshire,
and all those involved in the adventures of our favorite Time Lord.
Your work continues to inspire and entertain.
I liked your analogy. That's a good analogy with the roller coaster.
Yeah, I've had that happen. Smack. Migraine.
Oh.
Viper?
Yes.
It happened to me on Viper.
Is that
I think it was Viper.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Magic Mountain. That's Six Flags, right?
Yep.
Let me tell you how I half blacked out on Goliath.
I love Goliath. Anyway.
I hope for the children's programs he doesn't use the voice he used as Dr. Renfrew.
Yes, children, let's get on the train.
Come with me to the island of Sodor.
Yeah.
Were you trying to do Renfrew in that one?
No, just creepy.
Okay. Good.
More like Canton.